If you just sat down, my name's Cliff Hill from Ectron. We're sponsoring the Content Theatre today. We provide a web content management platform to these and many other well-known brands. So I'd like to introduce Stephen Lucker from Ever After. He's going to talk to you about find your voice, getting it right when you're speaking to the world.
Hi everyone. Technical problems aside, digital marketing show, all of that, we thought we might as well have a few scares. I'll give you a bit of background about myself, hopefully justify why I'm stood here. I've been working with design and brands for about 16 years. I know what you're thinking. Why did I start work when I was 10? Clearly I didn't. I started off in New York. I did about 5 years over in New York, working with some pretty big brands over there. TV commercials, on-air identities, promos, and then off-air and on-air. And then obviously digital came along. We came back after 4 or 5 years and set up Social, as we were called. And we worked as Social for about 10 years until we finally sort of gave up, because it's quite ironic, I suppose, in this context, but we're not that good at social media. And we were called Social. We actually came up with a name in a bar in New York thinking about lifestyle brands, nothing to do with social media. Anyway, Facebook took care of that. So that's enough about me. Then, no, it's not quite. Then we went off and changed the name to Ever After. So that's where we are now. The talk today is actually about online video content. And I'm going to come at it from a non-technical point of view. I'm going to come at it from a brand point of view. So that means understanding who you are and making sure that you've got all the basics right before you start even trying to attempt it. Before we get going, let's start off with some stats. I think we all have a fairly cursory understanding of how impressive online video is, and the statistics are pretty impressive, but we thought we'd make a big point of it and show you a little video.
Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
so I resisted all temptation to do any kind of awkward dance at that point. So big opportunity. I think that makes that clear. It's a really good scene setter to remind us. It's a massive opportunity. You could argue that the playing field's kind of been leveled. When I was working out in the US, we were doing commercials for $1 million for massive companies like IBM, and obviously that just rules out most people. You could actually suggest that what's happened is a smaller budget now can do a pretty good job of reaching a big audience. Of course, I'll always argue as a creative director that good creative wins, so it's about finding out how to create good creative, if that makes sense. And of course, with more people uploading and all these stats that we just looked at, of course, with that, it's harder to be heard. So, and the final point actually on that is the higher the profile of the brand, the higher the stakes. It's all well and good as throwing loads of money at it, but if it doesn't do much and your boss turns around and says, why do we spend £50,000 on this piece of content and you've had 3 views, it can be slightly humiliating. So it's all about finding the ways to get it right. The final point on that there is about skewed profile to video views. We would guess that, although it's a very exciting opportunity, that for all the Gangnam Style 1.8 billion views, there's always going to be a lot of people with far less. So, where do we start? We'd say that there are 3 mandatory questions. There's probably hundreds of questions, but let's start off with what we know. Because we're coming out from a brand point of view, we would say the first place to start is who we are and what do we stand for. Now, you've probably heard it a million times, but with video it becomes so much more amplified to get this right. There's a reason for this. It's more than just words on a page now. Actually, one of my irritations, it's probably a bit of a strong word, but one of the things that frustrates me with brands having guidelines and having in those guidelines lots of nice-to-have words, things like innovative and bold and expressive and pioneering. The truth of it is that there's no point in having those words if you're not going to do anything with them, and you're not going to do it over and over and over again, because eventually people will believe you, but you've got to stick to it. We've worked with so many brands, we've actually built brand architecture, and we've been told by CEOs that they don't want that word because it isn't what they want to be. It doesn't really matter what you want to be at this point, it's what you can actually achieve that suits the vision of the company. So there's a reason that we've put old Richard on there. Old? He's not that old. Bringing your brand to life through tone, attitude, point of view and association is actually used to be probably far easier. There was far more figureheads of companies, and I'd argue that now a lot of brands actually become the surrogate CEO for video. You know, you've got to know who you are, what you stand for and all those things. So for example, with Richard, he's a flamboyant, enthusiastic, ambitious guy, and I suppose with Virgin all aspects of that reflect him, but you take that away and your brand has to do that for you. It helps you make the right decisions if you know what you're all about. So the next phase is what might that look and sound like. You might argue that as a creative director, as a creative agency, you've gone to engage with them. Isn't that what we do? It should be sort of your problem. Well, actually, fair enough, but the brand will define that. So what I mean by this is, and this is roughly speaking, don't take it too literally, but, you know, are we modern? Are we futuristic? Are we traditional? Are we edgy? Are we slick? This will all affect everything that you do, whether you go from an animation point of view, you start creating content from an animation point of view, or whether you start going and shooting things. If you're shooting things, you're shooting on a simple 5D setup, Canon 5D, which is creates a very elegant picture, or are you going handheld and shaky, or are you going slick and stylish? So there's lots of things to bear in mind in terms of your art direction. The next question is, where is your brand? Now, of course, if you're animating, that doesn't matter too much. But as soon as you start filming, your brand is suddenly associated with a space. If you're filming in front of a white wall, it's pretty dull, frankly. If you're going to go and, you know, shoot something, why not have a go? But are you going to be in a theme park? Are you in a house? Are you in a bar? Are you in Spain? I don't know. But again, your brand and the knowledge of your brand and understanding who you are and what you stand for will help define that. What's the writing style? Are you familiar? Are you formal? Are you fun? You'll all remember those Tango ads from several years ago. They were just nuts. But at least they stuck to it. They knew who they were and they stuck to it. So by doing it over and over again, people started believing them that they were nuts. And here we've put, what do you sound like, literally? I'm actually using the word literally correctly here. I Apparently a friend of mine told me that literally he's actually had to change its definition in the dictionary because it's being used so badly. The reason I've actually put this Stephen Fry Lucozade reference up is because I like Stephen Fry a lot. He's a brilliant guy. I think everybody would. He's a great narrator. And actually, it'd be easy for me to make an example here by putting two opposites, two really obviously different things. But Stephen Fry is associated with science. He's into his gadgets. He's a technical guy. He's a very smart guy. And Lucozade is a product which would associate itself with science and advancement. All its ads are about that. But you wouldn't necessarily put him as your public speaker because the two don't quite work right. So the point that I'm making here is that words on a page won't do it necessarily for you. You also have to use a little bit of common sense too. You might argue, and it is subjective, you might argue that he'd do a great job, he probably would, but you know the point I'm making. So, what do you sound like? Are you southern? Are you northern? I'd argue if you want a sophisticated tone of voice, I'd go northern. But I'm not here to sell myself as a... that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? That'd sound terrible. Okay, who's your target audience? Now, you'd argue that that's the beginning bit, but I'm talking about all sorts. I don't know who I'm talking to, frankly, in the room. So if you're a huge brand, you might have lots and lots of different products. So you can't just start with your target audience. Depends on what you're trying to produce. It's a very important question to ask along the way, of course. It will define most things you do. So my argument is if you clearly know your brand, then you should be able to narrow this down before briefing, before engaging a good production creative company. So you might argue that big brands have been doing this forever, and they have. There's lots of very talented people at advertising agencies around the world who've been doing this forever. From, we've all watched Mad Men. But I'd argue it's not quite the same. The sheer volume of content now that we can produce is pretty frightening. A brand might actually go out and produce 50 pieces of content, 50 short videos a year. Well, how could they possibly plan for that the way that they would for, say, 3-4 seasonal campaigns a year? It is the same. There's so much more. Plus, the audience is far less passive. They're watching it and they're choosing to watch it. And because there's so much more created, it's harder to control. So we'd argue, go through the process to aid consistency in the tone of voice, have a plan, and absolutely stick to it. Now, the main reason and the main point of this today, from my point of view, is the most important question is, why would anyone care? Put differently, what's in it for the viewer? And I don't know if you can read this at the back, but basically we've put, remember the BS radar is on high alert, especially for brands. We're not talking about music videos particularly here. It's easy for Gangnam Style. They're not associated with someone. It's them and they're just having a good time. But as soon as you get a brand involved, there's a lot more cynicism. Before we go further into detail and show some examples of ones that I think have done it particularly well, let's narrow the brushstroke. Online video for brands. I'm not going to talk about porn today. That's next week. We're arguing that online video for brands goes into these rough categories. There's about 10 of us asking the question. Product demos, previews, music videos, company brochures, which we would explain as a gallery of your assets, the gallery of your products. Brand movies, that is where we've explicitly saying to the audience, we are selling ourselves and you're comfortable with it. And brand viral is a little bit more, we're selling ourselves and we kind of don't want you to know we are. So slightly different. And then, of course, Vine. It was only created last year by 2 guys, and before they could launch it, Twitter had bought it and launched it themselves in January only of this year, 2013. But we think it's almost its own thing with super short format creative output. I love it personally because I love these types of app that encourage people to look at the world differently and to be creative. Instagram and Vine being those. You see some fun things on there alongside all the other crap. So we're saying that from a brand's point of view, which are the videos that are most likely to be engaged? Product demos and brochure videos. We'd say there's less risk there. This is about having a product and showing somebody what it looks like. To give you an example, if I was about to go and buy a Ford Fiesta, I might want to look at it, I might want to spin it round, I might want to make it yellow and look inside it and outside it and the rest. I might want to buy a tent and see how many zips it's got, I don't know. Go crazy. So we'd say there's less risk there. And the reason being is that someone has actually chosen to engage with your brand at that point. They're there for a reason, they're choosing. The second type is brand videos, and obviously this is the most exciting opportunity. This is a way to bring your brand to life, to give it a narrative, to engage on a truly human level and to connect emotionally. And it doesn't make any difference to the size of your brand. That's such a rare opportunity. And video can do that. You saw the stats right at the beginning. I think one of them actually says it's 6 times more powerful. I think it's just because, certainly as we become lazier and lazier, and we like to consume things in more increasingly different ways, there's just too much to take in. So video will help us get to the conclusion far quicker. So we're going to talk about brand videos a little bit further. My opinion is that we now consume differently to traditional on-air advertising. We used to be passive, so that's sitting there watching the TV. Even in the ad breaks, even if we weren't getting up to make a cup of tea, we were subconsciously getting messages from brands on that level. And when a brand advertises on TV, there's a lot of research to prove that people just believe it and trust it, and they're more likely to hand over the credit card. Whether or not they're actually watching the ad and giving a crap is a different matter. The point is that they become trustworthy because of the format and the platform which they're talking about. And now we're active. This image we changed right at the last minute. We had a picture of a really over-enthusiastic 20-year-old girl online, and it was just weird in the end. We decided to change it. And I don't think we're quite this active yet, although I'm told by some very clever friends of mine that we're not far off Gesture. Other people here will know more about that than me. Cross that bridge when we come to it. But now we're very active. So basically the power's really with the viewer. This might only seem like a slight shift, but I think it's a massive change. The viewer basically has now the power to make it popular. They demand to be entertained, and they're looking for the benefit for them. You know, what's in it for me? Because I don't really care about you unless you do something for me. And what is that thing that you're going to do for me? There's basically been a shift of emphasis. I'd say there's been a change from the advertising I was doing 16 years ago of product sales centric, where we'd all get together in the room, we'd say, right, we're spending a lot of money on this advertising. You know, what can we get out of it? How much product can we move? Of course, don't get me wrong, we, as creatives, we always used to sit there and try and come up with the best possible creative ideas to make people laugh and make people, you know, feel like they were engaged in the brand. But the emphasis wasn't on the viewer quite as much as it is now. It's very viewer-centric. So what's in it for the viewer? The viewer chooses to engage with your content on their terms. What might those be? Well, make me laugh? Does it make me cry? Does it give me fascinating insight? Does it open my eyes to new techniques or style? Does it make me look cool when I forward it? That's a big one. Does it scare me, or is it controversial? Hannah Montana. What does it do for me? What's her name now? Miley Cyrus. Hannah Montana, what she used to be called, right? So what does it do for me? It's not like this is textbook stuff. This is just our opinion. This is what we tried to categorize it down to, and this is what we came up with. Make me laugh is there right at the top because funny videos work. But there's nothing worse than trying to be funny if you've got the wrong people writing your script for you and it's not actually funny. Scaring people for the wrong reasons could also be pretty negative for your brand if you got that wrong. Okay, so of course, this is the bit where I'm going to say hi to the right creative and production team. Let's get that out of the way, I've got to say that. But not just anyone with a camera, don't be fooled. Basically what's happened is, certainly since I've been doing it, is cameras and software and post facilities have become much more accessible, much more affordable. I remember sitting, it wasn't my money and it was nothing to do with me, thankfully, but I remember finding out when I was about 24 and I was working on a project in the US, and the post facility we were working at doing Flame, I don't know if anyone remembers Flame and Henry, was these special effects stuff basically, and it was $10,000 a day for this stuff. And now we can do that for $9,500, I'm just joking. It's a lot less. So cameras too. There's a camera called a Canon 5D, and it is exceptional. Everybody, all the DOPs, the director of photographers that I know, have all just said it's basically like a magic wand. It can make things look so much better. It's almost like a fluke. No one's quite sure how it happened. And they're about $3,000. So you can imagine, if it falls into the wrong hands, it's still going to be done badly. So good writers, good DOPs, good directors, and people who know what they're doing, find them. It's really important. The difference between good and great is a massive amount for shares and likes. So an overview. it's a massive opportunity. We need to decide who we are, who we're targeting, what we stand for, and what that looks and sounds like. Then we need to make it work really hard to earn the affections of users. Something that I've probably missed a little bit from jumping around is the importance of consistency to online video content. There was something earlier I didn't actually pick up on, but it's about color grade. You know, something as simple as color grade. We do things with clients where we've picked it up and they've been creating video and they say, well, we've got all this bank of video content. And we look at it and it's a bit like a visual audit that you would have done with any brand with what used to be brochures and whatever. You know, you look at 20 brochures and they'd all look different. That was the same problem with video. If you're grading them all differently and everything ends up, you know, some are letterboxed and some's got a different font and some are slightly blue, that's all well and good, but you look at that at the end of 24 months and it's just a mess. So have a plan, stick to it, is basically the point I'm making there. So we've got some examples. If anyone works at Tommy Hilfiger in the room, either leave now or accept my apology up front. I was actually sent this as something, because when I actually canvassed opinion to find some examples of things that I thought people thought were cool, I was sent this video, and I've ended up using it as an example of what I thought they got wrong. The reason I've used it again is I thought it would be a bit cheap just to find something that was obviously crap. This isn't. This is excellent. It's really well put together by a very reputable production company in New York. It's a big, famous brand. It looks cool. It's well shot. It's well edited. It's got good. It was also doubled up as a music video, but it's had like 5,000 views, 6,000 views, and they spent a lot of money on it clearly. So we'll play it, and then I'll tell you why I think that happened. In the interests of time, I'm going to stop it there. I think you get the idea. It carries on and carries on and carries on. They all eventually end up in a party, and they all take their clothes off and jump into the pool. Sorry for stopping it early. The reason I've shown it is actually because it's good. It's pretty good. But it hasn't had loads of hits. Someone at Tommy Hilfiger might turn around to me and say, we didn't try to have loads of hits. I just don't believe them. I think if you put it on YouTube, you want loads of hits. I think the reason it hasn't, this is my opinion, is because it's too self-indulgent. There's lots of gorgeous people running around New York City looking awesome in Tommy Hilfiger clothes with cool music. I just don't know if it really does anything for me. It doesn't mean that I don't like it. I do quite like it, but I'm indifferent. I think if you actually had asked the question right at the beginning and said, what's in it for the viewer, you'd have probably not produced that piece. So I want to make the point through my favourite example. This is, a lot of you will have seen it. It's had around 12 million views. It's my favourite because it won loads of awards in the US, the Out of Nowhere Awards it won, because it was a nothing thing, and from nowhere it had all these hits. It was incredibly popular. It went viral. But the reason that I think it worked is because they know exactly who they are. They are a very reasonable product that's actually very, very cost effective. They are down to earth. They're very, very funny. The actual CEO is in it. So let's play it and watch it, and I'll explain what I think at the end of it. Oh yeah, and I should say, this is the most important thing. is it is blatant selling. They haven't tried to cover it up at any time. They haven't tried to say, oh, I'm going to sort of lure you into a false sense of security. This is pretty blatant.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
Right, so the point that I'm making is it's basically a cheap product, and it's a cheap-looking thing. They've done everything themselves. They know who they are. It's funny. It's in your face, and it works because they're not trying to BS. They're not trying to pretend to be something they're not. They've got a clear idea, and they're very, very likable. So this one, everybody will have seen this. But the reason I've picked it is because it's the most successful. So if it's the most successful, it's the best way of justifying all the things that I've just said. It's a positive brand association. Rather than shoving a load of sort of moisturising products, I was going to say down your throat, on your skin, whatever, they've actually opted to side with women and to do with women's inner confidence. We'll talk about it a little bit afterwards, but basically, rather than talking about skin, they talk about feeling comfortable in your skin. The whole thing, and when you're watching this, look at the way it's shot. They've made decisions about it. The lighting's soft, the mood's soft, the music's soft, the light's soft. It suits the brand.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
So we thought we'd put their brand vision up. You can find this if you have a little look on their website. At Dove, our vision is a world of where beauty is a source of confidence and not anxiety. So we're on a mission to help the next generation of women develop a positive relationship with the way they look, helping them raise their self-esteem and realize their full potential. The point I'm making here is that despite the fact that that isn't the brief, that's just what they really believe. And because they believe it, they're capable of great creative work. And it's all about great creative work. If you know who you are and what you stand for, I don't care if you've got a 50 grand budget for the year or if you've got a 500 million, whatever, I don't know if anyone spends that anymore. But it doesn't make any difference how much budget you've got. Get good creative people, but start off with the point of knowing exactly who you are. This is the most shared. That just came out yesterday, actually, on Campaign Live. It's the most shared with 4.24 million shares. That's not views, that's shares. And if we actually look at the top 5 here, they're all to do with connecting with people. They make them laugh. They show them something they've not seen before. They're all about the viewer and the viewer getting something out of it, not about blatantly selling yourself unless you're Dollar Shave Club, and then you can get away with it. So the overview, and just to wrap up, because I'm conscious that I've probably gone a little bit over, which is pretty typical of me. Look at it like any relationship. Start building content by all means, but be thoughtful, be imaginative, share, listen. Create for the individual, not for the millions. What I mean by that is don't set off to try and get 50 million views. You'll never achieve it. Create for something for somebody that somebody can get something out of. That was a mouthful. Know yourself, be yourself, have fun. Great creative is key. And always ask what's in it for the viewer. And courtesy of my friend Neil at the back, if they care, they share. That's it, guys. Thank you.
I've got a minute or two. Any questions just while we're doing a swap over? Oh, one at the back.
Will you be putting the slides up online at all? Yeah? That'd be great.
So that was, will the slides go up online? And the answer was yes, somewhere. You'll have to search, use social media or something like that, I guess. Yeah, search or something like that. Okay, all right, we'll do a quick swap over. So Steve will just wait by the VIP lounge just for a few minutes, so if there are any questions, please grab him there. Thank you.